all for being here. And I know you're expecting mariachis, but standardized testing took priority. Those dates weren't meshed up when we were looking at this. And then Javi and his mom, who are going to be part of our musicians panel, had to cancel. Javi's been really sick, so you'll have to catch him on the radio or at a community festival, because Malia Lole Entertainment and Dance is all over the community during the summer, so look for them. They were at Living Traditions. I'm guessing they're going to be at the Arts Festival, so keep an eye out for them. Anyway, like Jeremy said, I'm Lara Jones. How many people listen to KRCL? Since 1979, been Radio Free Utah, and we're really excited about our longevity, because that means folks like you care about community, and radio is one of your avenues. I asked Theresa Martinez, was it yesterday? Said, hey, I should have asked you earlier, but I've got some more time because the mariachis have to take tests. So please come and talk about the sociology of rock and roll, one of the many classes she teaches at the University of Utah, where she's an associate professor, sociology and criminology. And I just wanted to read a couple of the papers that she has authored. I read the news today, oh boy, oppositional consciousness raising in British invasion rock, Sisters in Struggle, the resistance of women in hip hop, Tupac Shakur and Kendrick Lamar, a legacy of hip hop resistance, My Guide to Inner City Blues, a spectrum of resistance in Motown music, and Ripple in Still Water, psychedelic rock resistance. Oh, this one too. This was 10 years ago, mind you, so pay attention to some of these words. Rock and roll, CRT, in America in the 1950s. Musical counter-narratives in the Jim Crow South. So she knows what she's talking about, folks. She's been on RadioACTive many times in the past. Also, you mentor the Spy Hop Loud and Clear kids when they start the new curriculum, and you give them this lesson about the sociology of rock and roll. And it's right on topic here, the power of song to face challenging times around the world. Do you still believe that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I was actually reflecting yesterday after you texted me and said, could you do this? I was reflecting on the song Bread and Roses. Do you know that song? Yes. Bread and Roses is from the Little Red Songbook, which was created, back in the early part of the 20th century for, basically fighting for the lives of working people and labor rights. And these women marching arm in arm and asking for basic dignity and just basic rights. We want bread, we want to eat, we want to live, but we want the glories that everyone is given. Roses too. Anyway, I was thinking of that song, and really, if you look throughout American history, and really we could look at all world history, but if you look at American history and you look at any rock and roll era, and I mean any of them, you're going to find people who are trying to reflect on making it a better place, a better world. I mean, there's a lot of fun in rock and roll, a lot of fun music, silly music, seriously stupid music, but there's also this really core, like we deserve our rights, and then if you go to, the 60s and civil rights and anti-war, there's whole movements of music in there. I mean, literally, you could honestly just mention a decade, and we could just talk about that.
So in coming up with these classes, the sociology of rock and roll, but also inequality through music and film, a class that has a dreaded word we're not supposed to say at our campus anymore. Were you thinking of, how do I reach my students, or was it the love of the music when you first taught this class, sociology of rock and roll?
A really good question. My chair asked me to create a class that was cool, and I wanted to create a sociology of hip hop class, but he thought that it wouldn't sell. And so he said, why don't you make it a sociology of rock and roll class? And I thought, that's going to be a lot of work. And it really was.
Oh, yeah.
It was a tremendous amount of work, but it was also really rewarding.
So in this class, you take your students from what era to which?
Well, I mean, blues, right? Because blues and rhythm and blues are where rock and roll comes from at the heart, and jazz to a certain extent, but definitely blues. And then you're all of a sudden you're in 1950s rock and the British invasion before you know it. And so I take them there, and then we go all the way to today. I literally have 2 days in that class to do like 40 years. It's impossible. Wow. But then I ask my students, well, what do we cut out? Punk rock? That's not going to happen. You know, do we cut out, you know, the 80s? No. So anyway, they want me to create it as a survey class with part 1, part 2, but I've never been able to get my chair to agree to that.
Oh, wow. So your students here in 2024 was the last time you or was it earlier this spring?
It was just, yeah, January through May.
There you go. I'm guessing quite a few of the students haven't heard of a lot of the music that you share.
Yes, I would say that, but amazingly, some of them are even familiar with blues,
wow.
which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, a lot of it was news to them, and it's really kind of funny. When they don't know something, it's really obvious, and they just kind of go, you know, like, what is that?
No one wants to peer out of the loop, right?
And they also don't know how to talk about it very easily. But then when you hit something that they know, they become very excited, and they sang along to songs. I mean, like, they were singing along to things. Queen, David Bowie, I mean, they sing along to everything, but we were at one point in the 70s, and I played Sweet Caroline by, Neil Diamond. They were singing the song. They're quite adorable. Can I tell you, they love that class. And I think that part of the reason they love it is because it's a chance to just reflect on something that's cool and fascinating, yes, but also something meaningful.
Elemental?
Yes. They love it. They love that. And strangely, after COVID, I think my students have actually appreciated that class even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they connect the dots? Like when they hear the songs that they know, but they've had this kind of history lesson?
Yeah, take Pink Floyd, for example. A lot of them aren't familiar with Pink Floyd, but you play Pink Floyd, you play something from Dark Side of the Moon, like Us and Them, and then all of a sudden they're like, so this is about war. And I'm like, yes, this is about Roger Waters talking about the loss of his grandfather and his father in the wars. And all those British boys, those hundreds of thousands of boys who died, and they're like, this line from Us and Them, forward he cried from the rear and the front rank died. And when you think about what World War I was like in these trenches, these soldiers were fighting over strips of 5 miles here, yards here and there, and then tens of thousands were dying, like every week. And the students are very, very conscious and sobered about how terrifying that is and how it's reflected in that song so materially. So they were really moved by a lot of this music.
One of my favorite things in social media these days are the reaction videos where someone is listening to something for the first time, and your view of them, your completely external, stereotypical view of them is, what are they going to make of this song? Has that happened in the class?
Very much so.
Have you played War Pigs for them?
Oh, gosh, yes. By the way, oh, my God, the metal kids are just, like, going crazy. The other kids are like, I mean, I play cattle decapitation, and people look at me like, what are you doing to me? I get a huge kick out of playing really, really hardcore metal for them, and
Rage Against the Machine.
Oh gosh, yes, of course. But you'll be surprised by this. Tracy Chapman, right? Some of them didn't know who she was.
That's so
the only way they knew her was because I played Fast Car, right? They're like, well, that's Luke Combs, right? And I'm like, no, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, they think the Dixie Chicks, the Chicks, created Landslide, So it's like, you just have to kind of, and you just can't go, okay, that's nuts. You just go, oh, okay, you just don't know that, right? These are 20-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids. Of course, some of them just have no clue.
So you've taught this class for how many years now?
15 years. And
it sounds like it still brings you joy, even though it's a lot of hard work.
Tremendous. It's What's strange about that class or interesting is that I'm always adding artists, always, always. I mean, even from the past.
Yeah.
For example, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Anybody know her?
Yeah.
So she's, oh my God, right? I didn't know about her until the last 7 years, and then all of a sudden I added her to the class, and people just were rocking out to her singing, Didn't It Rain, Children, Didn't It Rain? And they're going crazy over Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and they're like, she's cool, she can really play. And I'm like, yes, children, yes.
But then the meaning about commentary on society, what are they getting, do you think, there?
Well, it's interesting that you ask. I was just telling them, in the last days of class, that I'm really more touched by things that actually have meaning, and that I focused on that. For example, when you play The Grateful Dead, for example, and I'm sure there's some Deadheads in this room, correct? So if you play Uncle John's Band and just kind of unpack that song and what that song is really about, and they told me I'm starting to think about music. I'm starting to think about lyrics. I'm starting to think about what the artists I'm listening to are really saying. A lot of them say that they like these artists better than their own. Am I surprised?
They're expanding their vocabulary.
They are. Well, they're starting to realize that the music that they're listening to, and by the way, there's some people that don't like anything except their own stuff. And I even discouraged them the first day. I'm like, look, if you can't be even slightly open-minded, maybe this isn't the class for you, because you're going to be listening to a whole range of music. But if you stick it out, I think you'll learn something. And I think, the majority of the class said I totally started getting music because of this class and started thinking about music, and made them start to think about what really big question is what is the music today saying? What is the music today reflecting? And will it change in response to our world right now? And my sense is that it will. I mean, it was interesting listening to Josh, about, what will hip hop do, and I think it's a potential time for something really good to happen with music, because the South Bronx, Ireland, the South Bronx was literally a hellhole. It was a pit where people died, and short lifespans and everything. And out of that came this extraordinary joy of hip hop, right? This extraordinary phenomena. And I think that, is today a hellhole? Well, you could ask yourself that question. Today is maybe another pit that people will reflect on, I believe. And I think that we're waiting for that to happen. I'm looking for that.
One of the other things that I finally found a use for TikTok for was finding independent musicians, singer-songwriters across the country, across the world.
Cool.
I'm just intrigued by Jesse Wells right now, because he's like this era's Bob Dylan with his commentary. The voice sounds like Bob too a little bit. So the role of the singer-songwriter as bard, as chronicler of the times. Let's talk about that a bit. What's the value there to society?
It's immeasurably important. I mean, if you think of, let's take Woody Guthrie, right? Woody Guthrie comes out with This Land Is Your Land is in response to God Bless America by Irving Berlin, and he wants this song to reflect everybody who's struggling, poor people, working people, black people. And by the way, he wrote a poem about undocumented immigrants. I don't know if you know that. Deportees is really a song about undocumented immigrants. Woody Guthrie. And you take Bob Dylan's legacy and you take Springsteen or whoever it is, or women songwriters like Joni Mitchell or Kate Bush, or really anybody who's Billie Eilish. People who are reflecting on their place on the planet, and the singer-songwriter is, I think, I can't even say enough about it.
Yeah.
It's that important.
And then lastly, before we bring in our musicians here, Utah homegrown musicians, the power of music to face challenging times around the world, it's one of America's biggest exports. And at the same time, it's highly critical of our democracy and our failures. So you think music is still going to be that beacon of freedom reflecting America, or is it changing? And I feel like kind of we're getting it back from outside the world, like, hey, what about this? You forgot what this person said.
Let's put it this way. I'd like to think that we will. I have hope that we will still be a place where people can create the kind of art that will critique what's going on, be critical of what's going on. I also think this is a scary time. So people are afraid. My students, I can see it in them, the fear of what's happening. You know, I cover a series on genocide in my deviant behavior class, and the students were like, well, this is not a lot different from that in terms of signs of fascism. I know they're afraid. And will that create paralyzing, responses, or will that create some real change? And, if the South Bronx teaches us anything, I think maybe it will create some words about change.
And then you hear Bruce Springsteen on tour in Europe saying how he's feeling about our country, and then a tweet or a truth that threatens to not let him back in the country. It's
thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, got to tell you, Springsteen, there's a paper I'm working on about Springsteen and Tracy Chapman and U2, and he's just been so honorable about what he feels about the country. It doesn't surprise me that he did it. I'm afraid for him, literally afraid that something could happen to him. Hopefully not, but we're living in a world where things are changing day to day and moment to moment.
Well, do you ever teach the sociology of rock and roll or the inequality of music and film for the general public, or Osher and lifelong learning? Because I'm sure people would love to partake.
Well, I haven't because I've been so busy with my undergrads.
Good job.
But as I phase into retirement, maybe so.
I think the professor of rock and roll needs to go public, a little IPO. Thank you so much.